The storm came without warning, sweeping across the scrapyard plains like a living thing. Sheets of static lightning tore the horizon apart, reflecting in the twisted hulls of derelict ships that littered the barren world of Talos. 9. Among those skeletal remains of forgotten empires, a single figure moved, slow, deliberate, wrapped in a coat that had long lost its color to dust and acid rain. His name was Kale, though few remembered it. The locals called him Drift Rat, a name spat out with the same contempt as the rust that ate their homes. Kale didn't mind. Names were currency, and he had none to spend. What he had were instincts, sharp and feral, honed from years scavenging the wreckage fields where corporate surveyors feared to tread. He lived by what he could strip and sell, metal or memory, anything that could buy another day of oxygen credits and ration bars. Tonight, though, the storm had driven him further than usual, into a section of the graveyard older than memory. His scanner blinked weakly in the dark, its signal stuttering against the magnetic interference. Yet something pulsed beneath the noise, faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat buried under kilometers of dead steel. He followed it. The wreck was half buried under sand and fused slag, the broken remains of a cargo hauler older than the war that had birthed the scrapyard. Its identification markings were long erased, but one emblem remained, barely visible under corrosion, a circle divided by a single line. He frowned. The mark wasn't corporate, nor military. It was older. He'd seen it once, deep in a data cache from the outer belt. The archive emblem, some called it. Others whispered it was the sigil of a pre-ascension civilization. The scanner's pulse grew stronger as he approached the cargo bay. The doors had been torn open long ago, exposing the black maw of the hold. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of ancient coolant and scorched polymers. He climbed through the debris, boots echoing softly on metal bones. His light caught movement, no reflection. A pod, still intact, wedged beneath a pile of shattered crates. Kale dropped to one knee. Cargo pod, Type-C containment. Self-sealing, reinforced hull. What was it doing on a freighter this old? He brushed off the grime, revealing a faint pattern of inscriptions etched along its surface, glyphs that shimmered faintly under his lamp, shifting when he tried to focus on them. The pod wasn't powered, yet something inside it hummed softly, like the low purr of a sleeping engine. He hooked his tools into the manual override. The seal resisted. Then, with a hiss that reverberated through the hold, the pod split open. Cold vapor spilled out, swirling like mist. Inside was not cargo, nor weapon, nor machine he recognized. It was a sphere, smooth as glass and blacker than the void itself. It floated an inch above the containment cradle, rotating slowly in the air, as if sensing him. Kale's breath caught. He reached out, hand trembling, but hesitated when the sphere's surface rippled. A pulse of light spread through it, deep blue, fading into ultraviolet. His visor dimmed automatically. Then he heard it. A whisper, faint and melodic, threading through the static in his comms. Identifier, human, connection established. He stumbled backward, ripping his headset free, but the voice wasn't coming through his gear anymore. It was inside his head. Dormant seed recognized. Awakening protocol initiated. The sphere lifted higher, streams of light bursting from its surface, weaving patterns across the walls, holographic constellations that rotated and realigned, showing worlds he didn't recognize, architectures beyond comprehension. The glyphs on the pod flared bright, casting the entire cargo bay in cerulean fire. Kale shielded his eyes. The air vibrated, his heartbeat sinking to a rhythm that wasn't his own. And then, just as suddenly, the light vanished. The sphere dropped, rolling softly until it came to rest against his boot. Everything was silent. The storm outside had died, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Kale picked up the sphere. It was warm now, alive somehow. He stuffed it into his pack and climbed out of the wreck, nerves buzzing. Something deep within the planet's magnetic field shifted, he could feel it. His calm crackled to life, channels filling with panicked chatter. Orbital scans, strange readings, energy spikes from the scrapyard quadrant. Kale looked toward the horizon. Above the toxic clouds, faint streaks of light appeared, ships entering orbit, not local. Too fast, too coordinated. Someone, or something, had heard the sphere's awakening. As the first drops of acid rain began to fall, Kale pulled his hood over his head and whispered into the static, "What the hell are you?" The sphere pulsed once, gently, like a heartbeat answering his own. And from somewhere far beyond the ruins of Talos 9, something old stirred and turned its gaze toward the forgotten world, toward the scavenger who had awakened it. The storm's aftermath left the scrapyard in a strange stillness. The air shimmered faintly with residual energy, ionized particles dancing across the surface of twisted metal. Kale crouched beside a shattered transport pod, watching the horizon turn amber as the twin suns rose through the clouds. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the sphere, its impossible light, its whisper in his mind. It sat now in a scavenged satchel, silent, inert, yet somehow aware. He could feel it. He needed to move. The orbital scans he overheard weren't random chatter, someone powerful was sweeping the area. He had heard the name Vorex Authority among the bursts of static. That alone was enough to chill the blood. The Authority didn't visit dead worlds like Talos 9 unless something of enormous value had been found. If they came here, they'd tear apart everything to retrieve it. Including him. He powered up his hoverbike, the old reactor whining in protest. As he pushed through the dunes, the scrapyard's metallic horizon fell behind him, replaced by the cracked salt plains that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Static storms brewed in the distance, their violet veins crawling across the sky. His navigation unit flickered and died, every system misbehaving since the sphere had come into his possession. Even the compass in his wristband spun erratically. It was as though the device distorted reality around it, bending signals and magnetics in subtle ways. Kale stopped by a ridge and opened his pack. The sphere remained motionless. But when he unwrapped it, the wind around him shifted direction. A faint hum filled the air, resonating with the metal fragments buried in the sand. Then, a flicker of light rippled across its surface, just for a second, and a thin blue projection bloomed into existence above it. Not words this time. A face. It wasn't human. The being's features were elongated, symmetrical, carved from light and geometry. Its eyes, if they could be called that, were radiant spirals, endlessly deep. The image spoke, its voice calm but carrying a weight that pressed against Kale's skull. Seed carrier identified. Reactivation sequence incomplete. Environmental degradation exceeds 90%. Kale stumbled back, eyes wide. What are you talking about? What are you? The projection blinked, tilting its head as though confused by the question. Unit 7 of the Continuum Archive. Function, preservation and restoration of lost networks. You were not meant to awaken us. Kale's pulse hammered in his ears. Yeah, well, sorry about that. He tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. I found you in a junk pod. You were already dead. The being's form flickered. This sector was silenced eons ago. The archive fell. Humanity persisted. The last word hung oddly, as though it carried more meaning than language could convey. You are descendant of those who were warned. The projection dimmed suddenly, collapsing into a flurry of light before fading entirely. The sphere pulsed once and went still. Kale sat motionless, staring at it. His mind raced. The Continuum Archive, he'd heard the name once in a black market feed, a myth about an ancient network said to store the genetic, historical, and spiritual memory of countless civilizations. But that was centuries-old superstition, dismissed even by fringe scholars. And yet, the thing spoke. It knew him. He didn't have time to dwell. A streak of light tore across the sky, no, several. Dropships. Black silhouettes descending fast, contrails carving sharp lines through the storm. The Vorex authority had found him. Kale jumped on the bike and throttled it to full power, the engine shrieking as he sped across the flats. Dust exploded behind him as sonic booms cracked the air. He veered through a canyon of rock spires, his heart pounding. The scanner at his belt screamed proximity warnings, multiple hostiles inbound. Missiles rained down. The ground erupted, shrapnel slicing across his jacket. He cursed, swerving between the narrow cliffs. The bike stabilizers were dying, he could feel the pull of gravity dragging at his frame. He reached into his pack, gripping the sphere. If you've got any tricks, now's the time. As if in response, the sphere ignited. A shockwave burst outward, invisible but overwhelming. His bike's systems rebooted, flickering with alien symbols. The air shimmered. When he glanced behind him, the pursuing ships twisted, literally bent, off course, like paper caught in a cyclone. They spiraled out of control, colliding midair in a storm of fire. Kale rode until his lungs burned, until the skies cleared and the wreckage behind him was nothing but smoke. When he finally stopped, he collapsed beside his bike, gasping. The sphere floated from his pack again, rotating gently in the air. Defense protocol initiated. Hostiles neutralized. Further interference will escalate retrieval response. He stared at it, realization dawning. They're not going to stop coming, are they? The sphere was silent for a long moment. Then, they cannot. What you carry is the key to their end, and their beginning. Kale looked toward the horizon where the first faint lights of a city flickered on the far side of the salt plains. Somewhere out there, humanity lived unaware that a relic older than its own memory had awakened. He picked up the sphere, his reflection bending across its surface, and whispered, "Then I guess we'd better not die before we figure out why." The wind carried his words into the void as the stars began to pulse faintly, one by one, like eyes opening after a long, cosmic sleep. The city of Valis shone like a mirage on the horizon, an oasis of glass and light surrounded by endless desert. Kale approached it under the fading twilight, his hoverbike limping on its final breath of fuel. The spires reached high enough to pierce the upper clouds, and streams of aerial transports glowed like veins through its metallic arteries. To anyone else, Valis meant safety, civilization, control. To Kale, it was a trap, a labyrinth ruled by syndicates and corporations who would sell him out the moment a bounty flashed across the net. But he had nowhere else to go. As he passed through the outer checkpoints, scanners swept his body and his bike. The security drones buzzed like insects, their red lenses flicking across him. His forged ID barely held. He could feel the sphere in his pack hum faintly, its energy cloaked by a scrambled field generator he'd stolen years ago. Even so, he caught the nearest drone hesitate for a heartbeat too long, as if it sensed something it couldn't understand. Then the gate opened, and he was inside. Valis hit the senses like overload, the air tasted of ozone and metal, and the streets pulsed with 1,000 languages. Neon symbols shimmered on every wall, advertising genetic mods, memory wipes, neural drugs. Above the noise, sky barges drifted between towers, their banners flickering with propaganda from the Vorex authority. Kale pulled his hood lower and slipped into the shadows of the lower levels, where the light was dimmer and the people stopped asking questions. He found refuge in an old maintenance corridor beneath a derelict maglev station. There, in the flicker of a dying bulb, he unwrapped the sphere. It floated free, rotating slowly in the stale air. Its glow reflected off the rusted walls, casting strange patterns that looked like constellations shifting across forgotten skies. "You said you're from something called the Continuum Archive," Kale muttered, his voice low. "What exactly are you? A weapon? A machine? A god?" The sphere pulsed, and the familiar voice filled the space, smoother now, as if adapting to his speech patterns. "I am memory. I am preservation. I am what remains when civilizations die." "Yeah," Kale said dryly, and apparently I'm the idiot who woke you up. Your activation was predicted. That made him stop. Predicted? By who? The sphere spun faster, streams of light forming a translucent web across the room. By those who built me. They foresaw collapse. They encoded contingency within the human genome. You are a descendant of that seed, one designed to interface with what remains of the archive. Kale's throat went dry. You're saying this thing connects to me? To my DNA? Correct. You carry the genetic key. The archive cannot function without a human host. Your species was chosen to preserve what came before. He stared at it, the implications burning through his thoughts. Chosen. Designed. Humanity as a vessel for something far older. If that's true, he whispered, then why would they abandon us? The sphere dimmed. They did not abandon. They fell. Before Kale could press further, his comm implant crackled to life. An encrypted channel he hadn't used in years. A voice, female, sharp and urgent. Kale. You'd better tell me you're not sitting under a Vorex beacon, because the sky above your grid just lit up like a reactor flare. He froze. Tess. Yeah, Tess. The one who saved your useless hide back on Omicron Gate. You tripped something, Kale. There's chatter all over the authority feeds. They're tracking a Class X anomaly, same sector you're in. Want to tell me what the hell you've done this time? Kale hesitated, glancing at the sphere. It's complicated. You always say that right before people start dying. Meet me at the Iron Spire. 1 hour. And don't bring your usual disasters. The line went dead. He sighed, rubbing his temples. The sphere hovered silently, its light pulsing in time with his heartbeat. You hear that? Now we've got company. All actions ripple. All ripples are observed. You are being sought by more than one force. Kale frowned. Meaning? The Vorex authority hunts to contain. Others hunt to claim. The archive's reawakening has been detected by the core relay network. Signals have already reached beyond this system. A chill crawled down his spine. You mean off-world? Far beyond. Across sectors where light itself takes centuries to travel. He stared at the sphere, realization dawning. Whatever this artifact was, its activation had sent a beacon into the stars, one powerful enough to reach civilizations that might not even remember humanity existed. He packed it carefully and left the hideout, merging once again with the restless night. Vallis glittered above him, a maze of towers and power lines stretching into infinity. Every few minutes, he caught glimpses of authority drones scanning the streets, their sensors humming. The city felt different now, as if every machine eye was watching him. When he reached the Iron Spire, a half-ruined tower overrun by squatters and data smugglers, Tess was already there. She leaned against a railing, her cybernetic eye glowing faintly blue, the rest of her face half hidden beneath a hood. You look like hell, she said, arms crossed. Been worse, Kale muttered. Her gaze shifted to the bag slung over his shoulder. That's it, isn't it? Whatever's lighting up the authority scanners. He didn't answer. She sighed, tapping a wrist console. Kale, you've got no idea what's chasing that signal. Word is, entire fleets are mobilizing. And not just human. Kale froze. What do you mean not just human? Tess looked up, her expression grim. I mean someone else heard your toy's song. And they're coming. Far above them, in the silent dark between the stars, something vast began to move. Ancient engines flaring to life for the first time in millennia. The message had been received. Kale didn't sleep that night. The Iron Spire creaked and groaned with the restless hum of the city around it, the wind whispering through the gaps in its half-collapsed frame. He sat on the cracked floor beside Tess, both of them watching the sphere hover in the center of the room, its faint glow shifting through shades of blue and violet. It looked almost peaceful, but Kale knew better now. Peace was a lie, the calm between two catastrophes. Tess ran a diagnostic field through a handheld scanner, her brow furrowed. Whatever this thing is, it's rewriting my instruments. I can't even get a stable reading. Electromagnetic, quantum, gravitational, it's like it's existing on multiple layers of reality at once. Kale smirked tiredly. Welcome to my nightmare. She shot him a look. You don't even know what you found, do you? Found's a strong word. It found me. The sphere pulsed once, as if confirming the statement. Its voice filled the air again, calm, precise, somehow human and not at all human. Host consciousness synchronization at 62%. Neural pathways adapting. Time within proximity field is beginning to distort. Tess stiffened. What did it just say? Kale's hand tightened around the grip of his sidearm. It means the longer I'm near it, the less reality makes sense. Incorrect, the sphere corrected. Reality remains constant. You are merely perceiving more of it. The words sank like stones into silence. Kale stared at the floating orb, the edges of his vision swimming faintly as if space itself bent around it. You're saying I'm evolving? You are remembering. Tess shook her head, stepping back. Kale, this thing is dangerous. You have to destroy it. I tried, he muttered. It doesn't want to die. The sphere emitted a low harmonic tone, resonating through the walls. The lights flickered, and holographic lines unfolded in the air. Maps of systems Kale didn't recognize, constellations long forgotten. Tessa's scanners went wild, static screaming through the air. Damn it! It's broadcasting again. Kale lunged forward, trying to cover the sphere, but it was too late. A surge of energy pulsed outward, sweeping through the tower like a wave. The holographic map zoomed out, revealing a structure of impossible scale, a network of stars connected by radiant filaments. At its center pulsed a colossal shape, more construct than planet, turning slowly in the dark. Tess stared, eyes wide. Is that real? The archive core, the voice said softly. Origin of preservation. The heart of what was lost. Where is it? Kale demanded. Beyond the Veil corridor. Between what you call the Perseus Rift and the Remnant Expanse. Coordinates encrypted within human memory long forgotten. Before he could respond, a deep vibration shook the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. Kale's instincts flared. Tess darted to the window slit and swore under her breath. Authority gunships, 3 of them, closing fast. Kale grabbed his pack, motioning to the sphere. We need to move, now. The orb followed him like a loyal ghost, its light dimming as if preparing for concealment. They sprinted down the rusted stairwell as explosions tore through the upper floors. Flames licked the walls, scattering debris and echoing alarms across the city. Outside, drones descended in formation, their searchlights sweeping through the smog. Tess vaulted onto a maintenance tram and hacked its control panel. Get in. Kale jumped beside her as the tram roared to life, skimming across suspended rails high above the city. Behind them, the iron spire collapsed in a storm of metal and fire. The sphere floated between them, humming faintly. Tess glanced at Kale, jaw tight. You've brought a war into Valis. Not just Valis, Kale said. You heard it. It's older than everything. The comms flared with static. A voice crackled through. A deep, mechanical resonance. Unidentified carrier of classified technology. Cease movement. Compliance ensures survival. Kale swore. That's Vorek's command. Tess grinned bitterly. They always did know how to sound friendly. The tram veered sharply as plasma fire streaked past them. Kale aimed his sidearm and fired a magnetic burst at one of the pursuing drones, its shell exploding in a shower of sparks. Tess rerouted the tram's power, diverting it into a service tunnel. They plunged into darkness. The sound of pursuit faded behind them, replaced by the hum of old machinery and the dripping echo of forgotten infrastructure. The tunnel stretched endlessly, illuminated only by the sphere's glow. Finally, Tess slowed the tram and exhaled shakily. "We can hide here, for a while." Kale nodded, slumping against the wall. His pulse still hammered, but beneath the adrenaline was something else, a pull, subtle but undeniable, coming from the sphere. It floated closer, its voice quieter now. "You cannot hide. They follow the signal, and others follow them. The core calls to all that remember." Kale looked up. Others? Awakened fragments. Guardians, remnants of the continuum. They will seek reunion, or destruction. Tess frowned. "You mean there are more of these things?" The sphere's light flickered, almost like a heartbeat. 7 were made. Only 3 remain. And 1 approaches. In the silence that followed, Kale felt the faint tremor of something vast moving beneath the frequencies of the world, like the first whisper of a storm coming across the void. He didn't know if it was friend or foe, only that the game had changed. Far above the city, hidden behind the clouds and the debris field, a shadow moved among the stars, a vessel of alien design, its surface flowing like liquid metal. It received the same signal that had awakened the sphere and adjusted course. Its engines ignited with light that no human spectrum could name, and it began to descend toward Valis. Kale could feel the city's pulse beneath them, a rhythm of power conduits, neon arteries, and forgotten sublevels. The sphere floated steadily, pulsing faintly as if sensing the danger closing in. Tess guided the tram through a network of tunnels that had long since been abandoned by the city's corporate grid, its magnetic tracks groaning under the sudden surge of energy they channeled. Every turn brought a flicker of light from surveillance drones above, scanning for heat signatures, but none penetrated the labyrinth of stone and steel. "This place," Tess whispered, glancing at the ceiling where old ventilation shafts crossed like veins, was built to store things no one wanted to see. Weapons, experiments, corpses. "Maybe this will buy us time." Kale nodded, but his focus was elsewhere. The pull of the sphere was growing stronger, almost like it had weight now, not physical, but gravitational, as if it were calling him towards something far away, beyond the limits of the city, beyond the limits of the stars he knew. His mind strained to understand it, to see through the veil of ordinary reality into the lattice of energy that the artifact projected. Images flashed, structures of impossible geometry, constellations rearranging themselves, and, most striking, a colossal network of light connecting worlds, pulsating with memory and life. "It's showing you," the sphere said softly, "what was lost and what can be restored." Kale swallowed hard. "Why me? Why now?" "Because you carry the key. You were made to interface with the archive, to awaken it. Without a host, the core remains dormant and vulnerable. With one, it remembers itself." Tess glanced over her shoulder at him. "You've got to be kidding me. Made? Interface? Kale, this isn't some relic you stumble upon in the scrapyards. You're saying you're part of it?" He didn't answer. The tram jolted violently, throwing him against the wall. Sparks flew as the magnetic coupling wavered. Ahead, a shadow streaked across the tunnel, black, enormous, like a vessel carved from obsidian that had somehow shrunk to fit the confined space. Tess swore under her breath. "They're here." Kale reached for the sphere, lifting it high. Its light flared, bathing the tunnel in azure brilliance. The shadow halted, recoiling as if burned by the intensity. "Defense mechanism engaged," the voice said, steady. "Host presence confirmed. Immediate threat neutralization initiated." The obsidian shape began to split, parts unfolding like the petals of a metallic flower. From within it, drones emerged, each armed with weapons far beyond human comprehension, plasma arrays and graviton disruptors, shapes shifting constantly as if in defiance of geometry. Kale fired, a pulse weapon designed for anti-drone engagement, but the projectiles bent in midair, redirected by the drone's adaptive shielding. Tess shouted, "Kale, stop shooting. The sphere, use it." He hesitated. Then, understanding surged. He extended his hand toward the floating sphere. Its energy flared outward, enveloping both him and Tess in a luminous cocoon. The drones collided with the field, their weapons warping, their movements erratic. Light tore through the tunnel as the sphere projected a network of energy, folding space slightly around them, displacing matter, pushing the attackers back. Kale felt his consciousness expand, his perception stretching beyond the physical confines of the tunnel. He saw the corridors of Valis, the flows of energy, the web of electromagnetic signals. Beyond that, he glimpsed distant systems, worlds spinning in forgotten orbits. And at the center of it all, the core, vast, luminous, and ancient. "It calls to you," the sphere said. "Follow or be consumed by the consequences of inaction." The voice was no longer just sound. It was thought, instinct, a thread tugging at the very fabric of Kale's mind. The pulse of the core synchronized with his heartbeat. He understood then, this was not merely a weapon or a machine. It was intelligence, civilization preserved in light, memory made tangible. The drones erupted in a cascade of sparks and energy as the sphere pulsed again, projecting itself outward in tendrils of light that wrapped around them, lifting Kale and Tess off the ground. The tram fell away beneath them, crushed under the wave of force. They were carried upward through a tunnel of energy that seemed impossibly long, curving through dimensions rather than space. Tess gripped Kale's arm, her voice trembling. "I don't know if we're going to land or get dissolved in this, whatever this is." Kale's eyes were fixed on the sphere, now spinning faster, projecting fragments of information into his mind. "It's showing us the path. We're going to the core." "Affirmative," the sphere said. "All pathways converge. Only you can unlock the archive fully. Others will try to stop you. You must succeed." The walls of the energy corridor shimmered like liquid crystal, revealing glimpses of the cosmos outside, worlds that had once been lost, civilizations erased by time or conquest. Kale realized the magnitude of what he carried, a chance to restore or destroy everything that remained, not just humanity, but the legacy of countless civilizations scattered across the stars. Suddenly, the corridor shuddered violently. External interference, another force, vast and unknown, was intersecting their path. The sphere flared, sending Kale and Tess spinning, yet holding them suspended. The pull of the core grew irresistible, yet threatening, as though demanding absolute trust. Kale's chest tightened. "We're not just running from the authority anymore, are we?" "No," the sphere answered. "You are running toward destiny, and toward judgment. All eyes of the archive watch. The galaxy itself waits for your choice." Tess looked at him, fear and awe blending in her expression. "Destiny? Judgment? Kale, are we even going to make it there alive?" Kale's hand brushed against the sphere, and an echo of light surged into him, filling every nerve with knowledge and history beyond comprehension. He didn't have words for what he felt. Only understanding. The galaxy was awakening, and he, an outcast scavenger, was its conduit. Above the city, the shadow of the alien vessel twisted through the atmosphere, seeking the signal it had detected. Far beyond, other watchers, remnants of the archive, stirred from their slumber. And in the corridor of light, Kale, Tess, and the sphere hurtled forward, toward the heart of a memory older than stars, toward choices that could remake the universe, or end it. The corridor of light ended abruptly. Kale and Tess were cast into silence, suspended over a void that seemed to stretch into infinity. Stars, nebulae, and impossible geometries twisted around them, all bathed in the pale glow of the sphere. The pulse of the core was stronger here, vibrating through Kale's very bones. It was no longer distant, it was immediate, tangible, as if the universe itself were drawing a breath and waiting for him to act. The sphere hovered before him, spinning slowly. Its voice, calm and resonant, filled his mind. You have arrived at the archive core. All pathways converge here. You must decide, restoration or stasis. Humanity's survival depends on your choice, as do the fragments of all civilizations preserved within me. Kale swallowed. The weight of everything, history, memory, responsibility, pressed down like gravity from every direction. Tessa's hand gripped his arm, grounding him. You're the key, she whispered. But maybe we can do this together. He nodded, turning to face her. The sphere's glow brightened, illuminating their faces. It pulsed faster, sending waves of energy that carried visions of countless worlds, civilizations erased by time or conquest, cultures frozen in memory. He saw human colonies struggling against impossible odds, alien species fighting to survive, star systems collapsing under the weight of entropy. And yet, interwoven through it all, threads of potential stretched like silver filaments, fragile but unbroken. The core requires synchronization, the sphere continued. You are its vessel. Only your consciousness can awaken its functions fully. All who approach will attempt interference. You must be decisive. Outside the corridor of light, distant figures appeared, ships of the Vorex Authority, sleek and lethal, weapons ready. Beyond them, shapes unlike anything human lurked, the awakened fragments of the Continuum Archive themselves, massive and incomprehensible. Kale felt the gravity of their awareness, the weight of their judgment. Yet, for the first time, he did not feel fear. He felt clarity. He extended his hand, the sphere lifting to meet him, spinning faster, its light penetrating his mind. Visions flooded him, memory and knowledge merging with instinct. He saw the origin of the archive, civilizations older than the stars themselves, rising and falling, leaving behind fragments to guide future generations. And he understood, this was not just preservation. It was evolution. It was a chance to steer existence toward a new path. Tessa's voice broke through the torrent of visions. Kale. They're coming for us. He opened his eyes, the core's energy coiling around him like liquid light. Authority vessels fired, energy beams slicing through the corridor of reality, but they bent harmlessly around him. The awakened fragments moved, testing, probing, watching. The sphere's pulse intensified, harmonizing with his heartbeat. Kale spoke aloud, words resonating beyond sound. I choose restoration. Not just for humanity, but for all that has been lost. The sphere flared, a blinding cascade of light erupting outward, spreading across the void. Reality itself seemed to stretch, rearranging. Authority ships were lifted, their systems overridden, turned away without harm. The fragments of the archive shifted, settling into patterns of recognition. Kale felt the core weaving connections, tying the threads of civilizations together, filling gaps, restoring what had been fragmented. Tess watched in awe as the light enveloped them. It's beautiful. Kale felt a warmth through his mind and body. The sphere pulsed gently now, calm, as if acknowledging completion. Synchronization complete. The archive awakens. Preservation is active. The galaxy remembers. Slowly, the corridor of light dissolved, leaving them floating above Valis once more. The city below was untouched, peaceful, unaware of the cosmic convergence that had just occurred. The sphere hovered beside Kale, now smaller, calmer, like a heartbeat in his hand. It radiated quiet assurance, no longer demanding, no longer urgent. Tess exhaled, steadying herself. We made it. Kale nodded. We did. But, it's bigger than us. This is just the beginning. The authority vessels retreated, their systems compromised but intact, unwilling participants in something they could not comprehend. And far beyond, the awakened fragments of the archive began their slow dispersal, returning to corners of space, leaving traces of memory, guidance, and protection. Kale and Tess descended through the atmosphere, landing in the ruins of a scrapyard not far from the city's edge. Dust swirled around them as they stepped off the tram, the sphere floating silently beside them. Kale set it on the ground. Its light dimmed, but he could feel it alive, connected, patient. He looked at Tess, a smile breaking through his exhaustion. "We're not just survivors anymore. We're custodians." She smiled back. "Custodians of what?" "Everything that's worth saving," he said, lifting the sphere. "Everything that can still be." For a long moment, the desert wind swept across the metal bones of old ships and broken machines. Stars flickered faintly above, the galaxy calm, yet awake. Kale felt a strange peace settle over him, a completion that went beyond survival. Humanity had a chance, and so did the forgotten civilizations whose memories now flowed through him. The sphere pulsed once more, softly, like a heartbeat. And for the first time in a long time, Kale let himself breathe, knowing that what had been lost was now remembered, and what had been forgotten could still be made whole. Somewhere in the distant void, the archive watched, and the galaxy waited, alive with possibility. The Outcast had claimed his destiny, and in doing so, awakened a universe that would never again be the same.